Okay, y'all. I hope y'all been progressing, man. Today, I want to come at y'all with a video talking about Queen and Slim. So, randomly earlier today, I just watched Queen and Slim for the first time ever. Now, Queen and Slim, it's a solid film, very solid. For the times that we was living in, it definitely hit home on another level, and I see exactly why it got the praise that it received. This Queen and Slim 7 years later, 7 years down the line, and 7 years into the future, 7 years into evolution. So, with that being said, let's really talk about what was going on in Queen and Slim. Now, I believe that the director was a black woman, so big ups to her for even bringing a depiction like this to life. Um, for those of y'all who do not know, Queen and Slim follows these two characters, Queen and Slim. I forgot these niggas' government names, but it's Queen and Slim. uh, they ended up getting into a altercation with a policeman. You know, at the times, racial tensions was high as fuck. Uh, so when this movie got released, it hit home. They got into it with a policeman, and they ended up killing him. Right, the policeman also shot Queen. Right now, it's layers to this movie that y'all have to understand. However, the layers might not have been realized as we was living through this in the times. So on a surface level, y'all can see that this is the black Bonnie and Clyde. For those of y'all who don't know what Bonnie and Clyde is, Bonnie and Clyde is basically a couple of criminals, right? A couple of criminals who, shit, they was on the run for a long time, and they ended up with the same demise as Queen and Slim. It was a lot of parallels. They even called them the Black Bonnie and Clyde in the movie. However, in this film, these niggas was just in the wrong place, wrong time situation. Bonnie and Clyde was literally running around and sticking niggas up and shit like that. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. You feel me? Um, yeah, basically, what this film was focusing on was the cycle of the system, and really getting involved into the systematic racism. Talking about how killing influences more killing, and how not everybody is going to be your friend. And ultimately, in the end of it all, when you believe that your friend is your friend can turn out to be your foe because the system feeds off of vampirism. The system feeds off of deception, and the system feeds off of blood. That's what y'all get on the surface level, outside of all of the racism, right? Because there was so much racism in this movie that I didn't like it. Racism isn't a topic that I enjoy because it's not something that I project into my reality. So this is the second layer that we need to talk about. Because regardless of if we like it or not, what we have to understand is that the power of the tongue is real. The power of projection is real. And when I say the power of projection, I'm speaking about it through a lens of what the fuck you was watching on the screen is real. It's real. Your brain processes it as real and it lays back in your mind subconsciously. So think about this happening. This movie released November 27th, 2019. Years later, it was protests during COVID. People was afraid of the police. You had shit like George Floyd going on. So it was almost like a foundation was being laid out for what was to come, right? So let's talk about what this shit was giving you on a subconscious level. It was making you fear the police because I felt all of these emotions stirring up within me because it hit close to home. Because I am a young black man and I do have a young black woman who I consider to be my queen. So this shit was very close to me. And it was probably very close to you as well if you fit the description. Not only was it subconsciously programming you to be fearful, it was also subconsciously programming you in unison to be one with your queen. They had a lot of positive undertones. saying that my man will be the one to kiss my scars, and my woman will be the one to hold my hand until the end. All of these are beautiful things, but it also gave you another subconscious layer of hopelessness. I understand, man. Tragic stories is tragic stories, and this is something that did good in the box office. But what you gotta know, I'm taking my shirt off real quick. What you gotta know is, as I said, everything that you see is a projection. Every projection that you see gets layered into your subconscious mind, especially when you are going to a movie theater or submitting yourself to a movie. That's why it's good that you transmute the energy that you get after you do see a movie. You transmute it, you release it by talking about it. You release it by debriefing about it, even if it's with yourself, writing it down, taking notes, whatever you got to do, because if you don't, it will sit within you. That's what I was telling y'all about Obsession. That's what I was telling y'all about that motherfucking movie, The Invite. All of these different things, they play a part in your psyche. It's something about looking into a black mirror that is very powerful. So, do y'all not think that this played on the mindset of all of the protests and riots and killings that were taking place systematically? They were setting the stage for the next chapter. Something to keep you within the system. They tried to revert it back. They tried to revert it back to what was going on in the past, trying to spark another civil rights movement and get us to further integrate ourselves into the system like they did once before. Yeah, further integrate ourselves into the system like they did with Martin Luther King. Yeah, they was trying to get us to get back there. However, instead, we at the point we at now. Complete segregation. If you don't see the segregation around you, that means you ain't looking. Complete individuality. If you don't see the individuality around you, that means you ain't looking. Complete prosperity within the community. If you don't see the prosperity around you, you ain't looking. However, all of these things were trying to reel us back in. They even had a scene where it was protesting, and a scene where a black kid killed a black man. These are subliminal messages telling you that the system will have us fighting each other. However, they still try to reel you back in. It's a very complex film, though, and who knows what the intentions was. Because like I said, this movie is 7 years down the line, me speaking about it right now. This movie is 7 years old. This level of consciousness wasn't around 7 years ago. And if it wasn't as widespread. It wasn't as mainstream. Now we have to be wary about what we is taking in. What subliminal messages can I take away from this? What emotions is this leaving with me? If something is honestly leaving you with a negative emotion, should you be watching it? If something is obviously increasing separation, should you be watching it? Now, I understand racism was a real thing, but it's not anymore. Y'all can't keep speaking it into existence. The more you speak it into existence, the realer it gets. And that's another part of the ploy of this movie. The more you speak it out, the more it manifests. So ask yourself, what are you contributing to? What level of consciousness are you dwelling on? Are you in a limited form or are you in a limitless form? God said, let there be light. So why are you saying, let there be racism? God said, let there be light. So why are you saying this person doesn't like me? You don't even know this nigga. You saying it because you've seen it in a story. Now, sure, these things might be manifesting in your reality, but why are they manifesting in your reality? Ask yourself all of these things. You might be dealing with people who vibrating on a lower vibration. That might be why you be encountering all these racist white people if you have to deal with them. But hey, the truth will set you free. I'm gone.